Princess sentenced explorer to burning alive. Flames turned icy at his touch. The amphitheater of Lirac buzzed beneath the indigo sky, its harsh stone pillars reaching toward the twin moons. Every seat overflowed with Liran warriors, their lithe forms draped in pale armor, faces elongated and elegant beneath cascades of blue hair. Fox-like ears flicked with every tremor of excitement, thousands of amber eyes fixed on the arena's center where the spectacle awaited. There, bound upright to a blackened spire of alloy, stood Marcus, a man unmistakably foreign in this world of sinew and sapphire. His once pristine uniform hung in shreds, stained with blood and dust. Bruises shadowed his jaw, and a cut on his temple trickled crimson down the side of his face. But his posture was resolute, jaw set, eyes narrowed as he studied every detail of the execution device. Flickering force fields shimmered in the air, humming with energy, casting fractured light across his battered frame. An anticipatory silence rippled through the crowd, breaking into a thunderous cheer as Princess Rhinel entered the arena. She moved like a living storm, tall and striking, sapphire hair unbound and streaming over the intricate plates of her ceremonial armor. The torch she bore burned with a golden, unearthly flame, the light reflecting in her amber eyes, eyes that seemed to weigh, measure, and command the very fate of the arena. She stopped before Marcus, standing close enough for him to smell the ozone from the torch and the cool, metallic scent of her armor. "Marcus of Earth," Rhinel intoned, her voice melodic, ringing clear through the amphitheater. "You have trespassed into sacred grounds, defied our edicts, and risked the sanctity of Lirac. By our ancient law, you are to be cleansed by fire. There is no hatred in this judgment, only the law's unbroken line." She looked up at him. Their gazes locked, his gaze a sharp glint of defiance, hers a flicker of curiosity behind the unyielding mask. The air between them pulsed with something unspoken. Marcus managed a crooked smile. "If you're going to kill me, Princess, at least tell me why fire." She regarded him, a ghost of amusement passing over her lips. "Because fire reveals truth," she replied, "and sometimes it gives birth to what was hidden." With that, she raised the torch. The crowd's chant reached a fever pitch. Flames leapt from the torch's tip, wild and golden, racing down the spire toward Marcus's feet. The heat blasted outward in a wall of light. Marcus braced for agony, but the fire faltered. Gold and crimson flames twisted, warped, then shimmered impossibly blue. Instead of consuming, they wrapped around him, a cocoon of blue light, silent and cold as ice. The force field flickered violently, the humming now a deep, thrumming resonance. Marcus gasped as a chill bit into his skin, burrowing past pain, past fear, into something older, something that made his heart pound and his nerves sing with an energy both alien and eerily familiar. His shackles began to glow, lines of cerulean lightning racing through the alloy. He pulled against them, feeling them vibrate with an uncanny, almost musical frequency. A gasp rippled through the arena. Rhinel's mask of command slipped, replaced by something raw and uncertain. Whispers spread among the warriors. Lady Vera, regal in her own right and a constant rival, leapt to her feet. "This is heresy!" Vera's voice rang out, sharp as a blade. "The fire is corrupted. He brings blight to our sacred right." Rhinel rounded on her, voice slicing through the chaos. "Silence, Lady Vera. The fire answers to no one's will but the gods. We will see what sign this is before we pass sentence." With a decisive gesture, she deactivated the force field. The shimmering barrier dissolved, leaving only the blue cocoon swirling around Marcus. The princess stepped forward, torch lowered, uncertainty flickering across her face. She hesitated only a moment, then reached into the haze. Her armored hand passed through the light. Instead of pain, she felt a tingling current, as though touching the skin of a living storm. The sensation wound up her arm, a pulse of energy that made her heart stutter in her chest. Marcus met her gaze through the luminous veil, and for an instant, neither was prisoner nor princess, but two souls joined at the edge of something vast and unknown. Renelle drew a careful breath, the firelight painting her cheeks with shifting blue shadows. She turned to the stunned assembly, voice steady, yet touched with awe. "His sentence is suspended," she declared. "He is now my charge, to be studied and understood. Let the record show that Marcus of Earth shall be remanded to my custody, until such time as the omen is revealed in full." The crowd murmured, uneasy, the weight of tradition bending under the force of revelation. Renelle gestured to her personal guards. They approached Marcus, unlocking his glowing shackles with wary precision. Instead of being dragged to the prison depths, he was led through a side gate, steps echoing in the suddenly silent amphitheater. As the arena doors closed behind them, the murmurs of the crowd faded, replaced by the steady, measured footsteps of those now bound together by fate's strange fire. Marcus glanced once at Renelle, her face still taut with command, but her eyes searching his with the spark of a question that had no easy answer. And so, not to a cell, but to the princess's private sanctum he was taken, the first sign that destiny, ancient and unforeseen, had taken hold of both their lives. Within Rhinel's quarters, the world changed shape. The chamber was a gallery of conquest and memory, shelves crowded with crystalline trophies, the skulls of vanquished predators mounted beside banners won in ritual combat. Relics of Liran history gleamed in the low amber glow. But the most valuable relic now was not on display. It was the human, Marcus, who sat upon a simple bench beneath the gaze of two elite guards. They watched him with the predatory stillness of their kind, hands hovering near sheathed blades, blue hair pulled back tight to expose pointed ears that flicked with every sound. Marcus knew better than to provoke them. He studied the room, cataloging exit points, the probable weight of the furniture, and the subtle patterns in the stone tiles, old habits from another life. Renelle entered, her steps measured, a different kind of armor now encasing her. A robe of soft indigo trimmed with silver, her hair braided with small metal charms. She carried none of the torch-wielding fury from the amphitheater. Instead, her presence filled the room with an intensity that was almost surgical. She dismissed the guards with a flick of her hand. They withdrew, leaving the air heavy with anticipation. She took a seat across from Marcus, crossing one leg over the other. For a long moment she simply looked at him, as if waiting for him to break first. "You adapt quickly?" she said at last. "Most would be begging or bargaining by now." Marcus allowed himself a dry smile. "I learned a long time ago. Panic is a poor investment." Renelle's lips curved in acknowledgement. "You speak in riddles. I want truth." She leaned forward, amber eyes keen and hungry. "Why did you come to Lirac?" "I was forced down by a navigational error. My vessel malfunctioned." His tone was even, giving nothing away. "Convenient," she observed. "And yet you wandered directly into the one place outsiders are forbidden to tread. Luck or fate? Take your pick." He met her gaze, unblinking. "Your customs are efficient. Is everyone executed or just the unlucky ones?" A flicker of amusement ghosted across her face. "Unlucky or unwise? We protect what is ours." She rose, circling him slowly, her voice softening. "Our society is built on order and strength. The weak do not endure." Marcus watched her, noting the shift in her tone. "A matriarchy, then. The women lead." Renelle paused, chin lifted. "We do not lead by gender, but by merit. Tradition ensures the most worthy stand at the front." She stopped at his shoulder, her breath stirring the hair at his neck. You are an anomaly. I cannot decide if you're dangerous or merely lost. He turned to face her, his expression unreadable. Why not both? Her laughter was low, edged with something almost like admiration. That is what vexes Lady Vera. She believes you are a curse, a trickster sent to disrupt our rights. He arched a brow. And you? Rhinel's gaze turned sharp, calculating. True weakness is failing to recognize a new force, Marcus. Whether you are a curse or a catalyst, I will not be blind. Their conversations grew longer, sharper. Marcus deflected her questions with well-placed half-truths, while drawing out details about Lyran life, the structure of their councils, the fierce pride that underpinned every ritual, and the simmering rivalry between Rhinel and Lady Vera. He learned that Lyrac's ruling matriarchs prized control above all, and that any deviation from tradition was met with suspicion bordering on violence. Each night, Rhinel returned, sometimes alone, sometimes accompanied by aides who took notes, and watched Marcus as if he were a specimen under glass. But there were moments when the mask slipped, a shared glance, a question left hanging in the air, a brush of fingers as a data slate was passed between them. On the third evening, after a tense dinner where neither touched the alien dishes, Rhinel lingered at the window, staring out at the twin moons. The silence between them felt different, fraught, heavy with the charge of unspoken things. Vera will not rest until you are gone, she said quietly, not turning to face him. She claims you have blighted the sacred fire, turned our omen into farce. Marcus approached, careful to keep his movements unthreatening. And what do you believe? She turned, her face illuminated by moonlight. I believe the universe is full of things we cannot explain. But only a fool ignores the unknown because it is unfamiliar. Her jaw tightened. Vera calls for exile or death. I call for understanding. Marcus nodded, studying her. You walk a dangerous line, Princess. Does it ever feel lonely? She hesitated, then shrugged with cool pragmatism. Loneliness is a cost of command. I would rather be alone than weak. The air between them crackled. For a heartbeat, Marcus thought she might say more, but she only offered a tight smile before excusing herself, leaving him with the scent of cold metal and the echo of her words. Their interactions shifted, no longer limited to words. In the training hall, a vast chamber of polished obsidian and ancient banners, they met as adversaries and equals. Rhinel moved with feline agility, her every step a calculated threat. Marcus matched her, each motion precise, honed by years of military training. Their bouts became a dance, sweat-slicked and breathless, punctuated by laughter and low, throaty curses. One afternoon, as they circled each other, Marcus feinted left, then closed the distance in a burst of speed. Their bodies collided, his hand gripping her arm, his chest pressed to her back. Where his skin brushed her exposed side, blue energy flickered, cold and electric. Rhinel gasped, a shiver running through her, not of fear, but something sharper, more intimate. Her composure fractured. For a moment she leaned into him, her breath catching. He murmured, "You're holding back." She twisted, eyes blazing, and with a growl, pushed him away. They stood, panting, facing each other, warriors stripped bare by the charge in the air. "You fight well," she conceded, her voice husky. "So do you," he replied, a smirk curling his lips. "But you're distracted." She shot him a glare, but it was softened by the flush on her cheeks. "You are an infuriating man, Marcus. Only when provoked." Their rivalry sharpened, but so did the attraction coiling beneath every glance, every touch. The boundaries between them blurred, but neither dared cross the final distance. The fragile alliance was soon put to the test. The day dawned cold and bright, the council chamber echoing with tension. The great hall was filled with the matriarchs, regal women draped in ceremonial robes, their faces masked, but their eyes sharp and unyielding. Lady Vera swept forward, data slate in hand, her voice cold and triumphant. "I present irrefutable evidence," she declared, projecting images into the air. "Recovered from the wreckage of the human's vessel. Schematics of our geothermal conduits. The lifeblood of Lirac." A murmur rippled through the chamber. Renelle stood, her posture defiant, but Marcus saw the flicker of alarm in her eyes. Vera pressed on. "He is not a lost traveler. He is a scout for invasion, a prelude to conquest. Will we wait until Lirac is overrun? Or act now, as tradition demands?" The High Matron, a formidable figure with silver hair braided into a crown, raised her hand. "Princess Renelle, the council is torn. You have 3 cycles to prove the human's worth. Demonstrate that he is not our doom. If you fail, both you and he will face execution." A heavy silence settled. Renelle bowed her head, accepting the verdict with rigid grace. Marcus caught her eye, and in that moment, they understood the truth. Whatever they were to each other, their fates were now intertwined. As the council dispersed, Renelle strode to Marcus's side. Her voice was low, fierce with resolve. "We have little time. If you wish to live, Marcus, we must convince them. Together." He nodded, something like a smile tugging at his lips. "I don't plan on dying just yet, Princess." Their alliance had become a crucible. With the threat of death looming, their rivalry and attraction burned hotter, forging something new between them as they stepped into the uncertain days ahead. The ultimatum forged an uneasy partnership between Renelle and Marcus, each sleepless night drawing them deeper into an alliance defined as much by urgency as by the tension between them. Renelle's quarters transformed from a sanctuary of trophies to a war room, its tables littered with stacks of data slates, flickering holographic diagrams, and half-eaten meals abandoned in favor of strategy. Marcus hunched over a floating schematic of the planet's inner workings, shadows deepening beneath his eyes. "Your geothermal conduits are impressive," he said, fingers ghosting through layers of projected data. "But there's a pressure buildup here, see? The core isn't stable." Renelle stood beside him, arms crossed, hair pulled back in a warrior's braid. "We know. Our ancestors caged the planet's fury with tech and ritual, but the balance is delicate. The central regulator is old, older than any living Lyran." Her voice was low, edged with the rare admission of vulnerability. He turned, studying her face. "You trust me with this?" "I have little choice. Your fate is bound to ours." She hesitated, then tapped a glowing point on the diagram. "If the regulator fails, the capital falls. Perhaps all of Lirac with it." They worked in tandem, trading ideas and information. Marcus revealed the truth at last, voice hushed as if confession itself might shatter their fragile alliance. "I wasn't sent to invade. My mission was scientific, mapping seismic anomalies. My crash was an accident, not a plot. And compared to this," he gestured at the intricate Lyran tech. "Human technology is primitive. I could barely keep my ship running." Renelle regarded him with a searching gaze. "Then what of the energy? The blue fire? No Lyran has seen such a thing." Marcus flexed his fingers, recalling the cold surge that had ignited within him. "It's new. The fire from your execution rite woke something in me. It feels unpredictable, wild, like touching a live wire in a storm." She stepped closer, eyes intent. "If you cannot control it, you are a liability. If you can, you might be the edge we need. I will help you, if you're willing to be pushed." He met her challenge with a wry smile. "Push away." Their training began at dawn, continued into the night. Renelle drove him relentlessly, barking orders in the echoing halls of the sanctum's gymnasium, her own sweat gleaming beneath the blue lights. Marcus strained to summon the energy at will, sometimes coaxing a spark, other times unleashing a torrent that singed the air and left him gasping. Again! Rinel shouted, tossing him a fist-sized crystal mined from Lirac's core, its facets catching the light. Marcus gritted his teeth, focusing. The blue current flickered at his fingertips, danced along his skin, then sputtered and died. He swore, hurling the crystal at the wall. It rebounded, skittering across the floor. Rinel watched him, her tone softer now. You're fighting yourself. Let it move through you. Do not command. Harmonize. He glared at her, frustration etched in every line of his body. Easy for you to say. You were born to this. I was born to war. This is different. She knelt, retrieving the crystal, then placed it in his palm, her hand lingering a moment longer than necessary. Listen. The stones sing if you let them. He closed his eyes, breath steadying. The cold fire swirled beneath his skin, a tide seeking release. He pictured the diagrams, the pulsing lines of Lirac's core. The energy surged, built. He opened his hand, and a blue pulse erupted, shorting the chamber's lights and filling the room with a wild radiance. The crystal in his palm vibrated, absorbing the light, humming in resonance. The blue aura no longer lashed out, but settled, flowing into the stone. Marcus gasped, feeling his heartbeat sync with the subtle thrum of the crystal. He realized then, he was not meant to absorb the energy, but to channel it, to find harmony with the frequencies that shaped Lirac's very heart. Rinel stared, awe breaking through her mask of command. That stone. It's from the deep core. Only a handful exist, mined at great risk. You stabilize the energy with it. Marcus met her gaze, the connection between them crackling like lightning. It's not just about control, it's about resonance, matching my pulse to the planets. If I can do this with the main regulator. She nodded, hope and fear mingling in her eyes. Vera cannot deny this. You are no scout for invasion. You may be our only hope. But hope was fragile. The next morning, alarms howled through the palace. The air itself trembled with the deep, grinding roar of ancient machinery in agony. Rinel burst into Marcus's chamber, urgency in every line of her body. The main regulator's failing. The city's core is destabilizing. We must go. Now. They raced through corridors thick with panic, guards streaming past, engineers shouting into comms. Smoke curled from vents high on the walls, the scent acrid and foreboding. In the council chamber, chaos reigned, matriarchs shouting, aides scrambling with frantic updates. Lady Vera seized the moment, voice cutting through the din. This is the proof. The human's presence has cursed us. He is the source of the chaos. Execute them both before Lirac burns. Rinel strode to the center of the chamber, her presence silencing the crowd. This began long before Marcus arrived. He has shown me a way, a chance to stabilize the core. Vera's eyes blazed, her words sharp as knives. You gamble with our lives for the sake of a stranger? Marcus stepped forward, voice steady, every ounce of his training called to bear. You need me. I can harmonize with the regulator, use the energy to restore balance. But we have minutes, not hours. Arguing means death for everyone. The high matron, face carved in stone, weighed the words for a heartbeat. Around her, the chamber shuddered as another tremor passed through the city. Dust drifted from the ancient beams above. Rinel met the high matron's gaze. Let us try. If we fail, execute us then. But at least give us the chance to save Lirac. For a moment, the only sound was the distant, growing rumble of the planet's fury. The high matron finally spoke, her voice grave. Go. Prove your worth, or face the consequences. Rynel grasped Marcus's arm, pulling him from the chamber. They raced down spiraling stairways, the world shaking around them, all doubts burned away by necessity. In those frantic moments, rivalry and suspicion gave way to something stronger. A fragile trust, forged in desperation. Together, they ran for the heart of the city, toward the core that held the fate of Lirac and their own lives in its volatile grip. Rynel led Marcus down a spiral of obsidian corridors, urgency in every stride as alarms keened through the stone. The air thickened, hot and coppery, with the scent of burning circuits and ozone. Engineers in soot-stained uniforms darted back and forth, shouting status updates and prayers alike. Control panels flickered wildly, their glyphs bleeding red. Overhead, the walls themselves pulsed with a sickly crimson light, as if the planet's heart were bleeding out through the veins of the city. They reached the last barricade, a bulkhead scorched and dented by recent tremors. Two guards saluted Rynel, their faces tight with fear, before stepping aside. Beyond, the main regulator chamber opened like the maw of some ancient beast, a cavern rimmed with steel catwalks and glowing conduits, all leading to a central spire wreathed in lashing tendrils of unstable energy. The regulator throbbed, exhaling waves of blistering heat, its core pulsing crimson as bolts of raw power arced from node to node, tearing holes in the air. Marcus stopped short, sweat already slicking his brow. That's worse than I imagined. Rynel nodded, her voice clipped but calm. It's on the brink. Can you do it? He swallowed, searching for steadiness. I can channel the energy, but the chaos. There's too much interference. I can't focus. Not with everything fighting me at once. She stepped closer, eyes fierce. Then let me help. I'll guide you. Trust me. Without hesitation, Rynel stripped away the heavy outer layers of her armor, leaving only the black underarmor that hugged her form like a second skin. Each movement was purposeful, ritualistic, a warrior preparing for the possibility of death or triumph. Marcus glanced at her, then shrugged off his torn shirt, exposing the pale scars that crisscrossed his chest. Two warriors, stripped down to the essentials, standing together at the edge of annihilation. He drew a shuddering breath, looking at her. Ready? Rynel's gaze was unwavering. With you. They moved onto the central platform. The storm of energy howled around them, tendrils of power snapping close enough to raise welts on exposed skin. Marcus extended his hands, blue energy flickering at his fingertips, but the current was wild, threatening to break him before he even touched the core. Rynel pressed her hand to his shoulder, a simple touch, but electric in its intimacy. Lyran trust was never given lightly, and Marcus felt it steady him, anchoring him in the chaos. Listen to my voice, she said, close to his ear. Find me in the storm. He nodded, stepping forward until his palms hovered just above the regulator's surface. The pain was immediate, a spike of white-hot agony as the planet's wrath poured into him. The blue energy flared, his body arching as he fought to contain it, to shape it rather than let it shred him to pieces. He gasped, teeth clenched. I can't. Yes, you can. Rynel's voice was steel and velvet all at once. Her hand slid from his shoulder to his bare back, fingers splayed, grounding him in her strength. You're not alone, Marcus. Take what you need from me. He forced his eyes open, searching for her face in the blur of color and pain. Her amber eyes blazed with courage and something deeper, something that refused to let him fall. He reached for her, not physically, but with the current inside him. Her presence became a melody amid the noise, a guiding note in the discord. The energy that threatened to tear him apart found a rhythm, a harmony that echoed with the pulse of her heartbeat. Rynel whispered in his ear, words in her own tongue, syllables shaped for comfort, for hope. He let the cadence of her voice become his anchor, focusing the torrent of power into the blue flame that danced over his skin. Slowly, with her beside him, he pressed his palms to the regulator. The machine shuddered. Crimson light warred with blue, the battle raging in every nerve of Marcus's body. He felt the core's fury, centuries of pressure, fear, and longing for release. But Renelle's touch was constant, her voice unyielding. "Shape it, Marcus. Don't fight. Shape." He remembered the crystal in the sanctum, how he had harmonized rather than dominated. He reached for that same resonance, letting his will merge with the regulator's ancient rhythms. The pain dulled, replaced by a deep, aching connection, a communion with the living planet itself. The crimson faded, blue fire bleeding through the cracks, soothing the machine's agony. The regulator's pulses slowed, growing steadier, the lethal energy gradually drawn back under control. Systems across the chamber flickered to life, the alarms fading one by one. Marcus sagged, knees buckling, the strength leached from his limbs. Renelle caught him before he could collapse, arms wrapping around his waist with surprising gentleness. She held him upright, their bodies pressed close, sweat mingling, breaths coming in unsteady gasps. The storm was over. The chamber hummed with the quiet aftermath. No longer a battlefield, but a place reborn. For a long moment, neither spoke. Marcus rested his forehead against Renelle's, drawing in her scent, the tang of steel and sweat and something warm, alive. He felt the bond between them, a thread spun in crisis, shining and unbreakable. Renelle broke the silence first, voice low and rough. "You did it." He managed a weak grin. "We did it. I'd have been lost without you." Their eyes met, vulnerability and wonder passing in the charged air. Marcus traced the line of her jaw with trembling fingers, unable to stop himself. Renelle leaned in, her lips parting, amber gaze never leaving his. In the dim glow of the regulator, they kissed, a fierce, searching press of mouths, desperate and grateful. It was not a gentle thing, but the meeting of two survivors who had fought through the fire and found something worth holding on to. Her hands fisted in his hair, his arms wrapped around her, pulling her closer still. When they broke apart, breaths ragged, the world felt changed. The planet's heart beat beneath their feet, steady once more, and something new bloomed between them. A partnership forged in the crucible of survival, now tempered by trust and the promise of something deeper. They stood together in the hush, warriors and lovers, ready for whatever dawn might bring. They returned to the council, side by side. The hush that greeted Marcus and Renelle was not the wary silence of suspicion, but the heavy quiet of awe. The matriarchs, tall, robed in the house colors of Lirac, their faces half shadowed by veils, watched with new, appraising eyes. The city outside thrummed with life, the tremors stilled, the regulator's heart beating steady once more. In this moment, Marcus was no longer an intruder. He stood before them, alive with blue energy pulsing beneath his skin. He raised his hand, letting the current play across his palm, a shimmering aura that lit the council chamber in unearthly light. "You asked for proof," he said, voice echoing in the vaulted space. "I have found resonance with your world. I can channel its power, not as a conqueror, but as an ally." The energy flared, gentle but commanding, and then faded as he lowered his arm. "With this bond, I can help stabilize the core, keep your city safe." The High Matron leaned forward, her eyes sharp behind her mask. "We have witnessed the impossible, human. The storm is quieted and our people live. How do we know this power will not one day turn against us?" Renelle stepped forward, blood still drying at her temple from the ordeal below. "You know me. I vouch for him. What he did at my side. Our fates are joined. and so is our loyalty. A murmur of assent rippled through the chamber, skepticism eroded by survival and spectacle. Even the oldest matriarchs inclined their heads, granting the rarest sign of respect. Yet Vera, eyes narrow and pride wounded, refused to yield. "This council is ruled by strength, not spectacle," Vera said, her voice cutting through the rising tide of support. "Tradition demands more than words or wonders. I invoke the right of single combat. Let the gods decide if your path continues, Rhinel." Gasps swept the room. The High Matron's staff struck the floor. "You may invoke the right, Lady Vera." "Rhinel, as champion, you must accept or relinquish your title and all claims." Rhinel's jaw set. "I accept." They were dismissed. The council's decision was final. The rite would be held at dusk. In her chambers, Rhinel moved with ritual precision. She laid out her armor, each piece gleaming with the patina of battle. Marcus stood by the window, watching the city's twin moons climb the sky. He turned, voice soft but sure. "You don't have to do this alone." She paused, her hands trembling just once. "It is my burden. Vera will not fight fair." Marcus approached, his presence calm but insistent. "Let me fight beside you, in my own way. We are partners now, Rhinel. You taught me that." She searched his face, something unguarded flickering in her amber gaze. "You have earned a place by my side, Marcus of Earth. More than anyone, you understand what it means to risk everything for a world not your own." In a gesture intimate and ancient, Rhinel removed a curved plate from her armor, a piece engraved with her house's sigil. She pressed it into his hands. "This is yours now, a symbol of trust and bond." He smiled, fingers closing around the plate. "I'll wear it with honor." He helped her fasten her armor, their hands brushing, lingering. Each touch spoke of promises, of new beginnings, of old scars. When her armor was set, she let her hand rest on his chest, just above his heart. "Return to me," he whispered. "I will," she answered, fierce and quiet. The arena was silent as Rhinel entered, every eye upon her. The twin moons cast silver over the stone pillars, painting the warriors below in ghostly blue. Marcus stood at the edge, armor plate pressed over his own chest, heart pounding in time with the drums that marked the beginning of the duel. Vera waited at the center, armored in crimson and black, her fox-like ears alert, blade gleaming in her hand. She bowed, eyes cold with calculation. "May the gods judge us," Rhinel said, her voice steady. Vera attacked first, swift, brutal, driving Rhinel back with a flurry of strikes. Steel clashed on steel, sparks flying, each blow echoing through the amphitheater. Rhinel moved with the grace of a predator, countering, parrying, but Vera's rage was relentless. A vicious upswing caught Rhinel's arm. Blood spattered her blue fur, staining the ground. She staggered, lips pulled tight in pain. The crowd tensed, breaths held. Marcus watched, helpless but not powerless, his fingers pressed to the cold stone beneath him, blue energy pulsing at his command. He reached out, not to harm, but to influence. Subtle, careful, he let the current slip through the metal veins of the arena, chilling the floor beneath Vera's feet. Vera lunged, confident in her momentum. Her boot slid on the sudden slick, balance lost. Rhinel saw her opening, a heartbeat stretched to eternity. She twisted, blade flashing, and disarmed Vera with a strike so precise it drew cheers from the crowd. Vera crashed to the ground, weapon spinning away. Rhinel pinned her with a foot to her chest, blade pressed to the vulnerable hollow of her throat. The arena was utterly silent. "Yield!" Rhinel commanded, voice ringing with authority. Vera spat blood, face twisted with fury. "You would spare me, after all you've lost?" Rhinel leaned close, voice low. You lost long before this duel, Vera. I have evidence, proof of your sabotage. She raised her hand, a small device projecting images. Vera tampering with the regulator, her agents sabotaging the core. Gasps swept the stands. The High Matron rose. Vera, you are stripped of rank and title. You are exiled from Lirac, never to return. Vera's face crumpled in defeat. Guards moved to escort her away, and she did not resist, her eyes fixed on Renelle with bitter regret. Bloodied but unbroken, Renelle turned to face the crowd. The warriors of Lirac saluted her, blades crossed above their heads in a sign of honor. Marcus met her gaze from the arena's edge, pride and relief shining in his eyes. Renelle stood victorious, the moonlight gleaming on her armor and the blood that marked both her pain and her strength. She had won more than a duel. She had secured her world's future and found an equal at her side. Afterwards, in the hush of Renelle's chambers, Marcus knelt at her side, tending to wounds that glistened beneath the soft gold light. She sat atop the low couch, armor set aside in a battered heap, blue fur matted with blood at her thigh where Vera's blade had cut deep. Marcus's touch was gentle, his hand sure as he cleaned the gash and smeared cool salve over the bruised flesh. Every motion was deliberate, his fingers lingering where battle and vulnerability met. Renelle watched him, eyes half closed, the fatigue of triumph and pain mingling in her bones. You learned Lyran medicine fast, she murmured, voice still rough from the duel. He looked up, a crooked smile touching his lips. I had an excellent teacher, he replied, fastening a thin bandage around her thigh, careful not to pull too tight. His fingers paused, tracing the edge of her wound, then traveling up, finding an older scar along her hip. How did this happen? Renelle's hand slid over his, guiding it to another scar on her side. Saber cat. I was 12. She drew his hand across her stomach, to a jagged mark. First campaign as a junior officer. Marcus let her guide him, reverent, learning her history through the map of her body. Each one tells a story. She nodded, then turned the gesture, her fingertips finding the scars on his chest, one across his collarbone, another low along his ribs. Tell me, she whispered, curiosity and something deeper in her tone. He caught her hand, pressing it to his heart. Escape pod shrapnel, close call during a training exercise. This! He guided her fingers to the burn scar above his waist. The crash that brought me here. Renelle's thumb brushed the old wound, her touch softening. You have survived much. So have you, he said, voice low. Their eyes met, and the silence was thick with things unspoken. Their hands entwined, resting in the space between them, a quiet promise that neither would carry their burdens alone anymore. Marcus leaned in, his lips at her ear. You were worth the risk. Renelle's response was a slow, genuine smile, unguarded and rare. She drew him closer, their foreheads touching, blue hair mingling with his dark locks. In that instant, the world outside faded to nothing. The pyre, the duel, the scars. None of it mattered but the warmth of her body and the trust in her eyes. Days passed, and Lirac began to heal. Marcus moved through the palace and its city not as a prisoner, but as Renelle's advisor and partner. Together, they met with the council, their united front turning former suspicion into grudging respect and then true acceptance. Word of Renelle's victory spread quickly, and so did the tale of the human who had saved the planet's core. Side by side, they worked with Lyran engineers, blue-furred and sharp-eyed women who bowed to Renelle and regarded Marcus with a mixture of curiosity and admiration. Diagrams and data spheres hovered above work tables, projections spinning in the air. Marcus's understanding of resonance, paired with Rhinel's tactical insight, formed the foundation for a new era of stability. One morning in the regulator's inner sanctum, Marcus pressed his hands to the crystal conduits. Blue energy thrummed beneath his skin, but now it responded willingly, drawn into harmony with the planet's pulse. Rhinel stood close, her hand resting on his arm, anchoring him. The core's wild song was no longer a threat, but a promise. A shared gift, a bridge between worlds. Rhinel's voice was soft, reverent. The blue fire is not just yours anymore. It belongs to all of us. He glanced at her, seeing pride and affection in her gaze. It's hope, Rhinel. A future neither of us could have imagined. In quiet moments, when the demands of rebuilding faded, they found solace in each other. Rhinel leaned into him by lamplight, her forehead pressed to his, arms wrapped around his waist. The scent of her, the wild tang of fur and earth, the sharpness of iron, became the center of his world. Their bond was no longer forged in desperation but in certainty. They were equals, partners, lovers, the foundation for a new Lirac. One evening, as gold light spilled through the high windows, Rhinel traced a line down his chest, voice trembling with emotion. "The flames were meant to end you," she whispered. Marcus caught her hand, threading their fingers together. "They began something new," he replied, his voice rough with feeling. Their lips met, slow, deep, a kiss that was equal parts gratitude and hunger. Blue light curled around them, responding to their closeness, swirling in the space where their bodies touched. It danced across their skin, neither hot nor cold, but alive, an energy that was both promise and affirmation. Rhinel's hands cupped his face, her eyes shining with tears she did not try to hide. "You changed everything, Marcus. Not just the core, not just the council. Me." He pulled her close, arms tight around her. "We changed each other." Their passion ignited, but it was not the desperate union of survival. It was discovery. Slow, reverent, a weaving together of histories and futures. They shed the last remnants of armor and fear, exploring the lines and textures of bodies marked by hardship and hope. Every touch was deliberate, every gasp shared, every scar honored. When they finally stilled, tangled in the golden sheets, blue light haloed them, soft, endless, unbreakable. Later, they stood at the balcony, gazing out over the city. The fires that once threatened to consume Lirac now burned only in the forges of renewal. Below, Liran and human engineers moved side by side. The pyre, once meant for destruction, had forged something no blade could shatter. Suspicion and fear were gone, replaced by partnership. The council sought their counsel, and the people, warriors and scholars alike, looked to them for guidance. Rhinel's hand found Marcus's, their fingers entwined as they watched the horizon. He pressed his lips to her temple. "Whatever comes next, we face it together." She smiled, fierce and unyielding. "Together," she echoed. Beneath twin moons and the endless sky, their love became the foundation for a new world, a promise not just of survival, but of a future where being Liran or human mattered less than the hope they built side by side. Our story ends here. Make sure you subscribe, press the like button, and tell us in the comments what stood out to you the most in this video. Your feedback means a lot to our team. You'll discover many more captivating stories on our channel. See you in the next one.